This week on the OneCast, we're going to break down the Bassmaster Elite Series last event and talk about who may be seeing themselves in the Bassmaster Elite Series in 2025.
That's a good one. That's a good one. Oh, God, it's a toad, son. It's a toad, dude.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's going to be a bad day.
What is going on, folks? If you're watching in studio, we are missing our brother Pete. He is he's moving into his house, getting settled in his new place here, setting down roots here in North Carolina. So it's just Trey and I hanging out here, and there's been a lot of excitement in the last couple weeks and bass fishing. In that intro, Pete's mentioned how Trey mentioned how we're going to talk about the last event here. We're recording. It's not over yet, but there's been so much excitement, so much moving going on with Angler of the Year, Rookie of the Year. We just want to talk about how it's not wrapped up yet and kind of give our predictions. So by the time you guys listen, you know if we're right or wrong.
Yeah, that's right. You're going to know who AOY is for the Elite Series. You're going to know who won the St. Lawrence River. And there's still 3 opens events left. So there's a lot of shaking and moving going around. But you know what? Never mind that. Let's talk about those who support us the most. Right here, you're seeing a pile. If you're watching, you see a pile of OneCast Fishing. These are the Nighthawks. You need to get your hands on those. Something special about that bait. One of our good buddies, Seth Ellis, and who is sponsored by OneCast Fishing, has been going out and crushing the largemouth. After Hurricane Debbie, they've moved up shallow, and he's been dropping bombs on them with the Nighthawk. So head on over to OneCastFishing.com. Get yourself some of those snagless jigs right here. I was using these the other day, flipping, catching largemouth up shallow. Get yourself those snagless jigs, weedless net heads, all those soft plastics I just talked about, apparel, all that good stuff, and use the code TheOneCast to save 10% at checkout. And then while you're online, head on over to CarolinaWatersNC.com. Get yourself that new apparel, the hats, the UPF gloves, the buffs. I'm
decked out in it right now.
He's wearing some swag right now. Our partners at Carolina Waters have been keeping us covered all year long, making sure that we stay protected from the UV rays of the sun, and we look pretty cool out there on the water as well. So use the code TheOneCast, and you're going to save, I think, 20%. 15%. I don't know. You're going to save money so you can spend it at OneCast Fishing, or you can head on over to Hobie Eyewear and use our link. And it happened to me again. So I've already taken a tungsten weight to the face. I've also taken a OneCast Fishing snagless jig to the face, but luckily this time it only scratched the lenses. But Hobie Eyewear has you covered. It's going to protect your eyes while you're out on the water. They have a ton of different collections that you guys can choose from, whether or not you're looking for the floating frames, the lifestyle ones. They have prescription sunglasses as well. My whole family's decked out in Hobie. So use that link that we always talk about. You're going to save 15% on your order. And Ben knows, and we will be announcing next month in September, we have a new partner coming on board. We're super excited. So keep you in suspense. We won't name who they are yet, but it's a really cool way to help you catch more fish. So yeah,
I'm excited about that.
I'm excited too. A lot of shaking and moving going around right now. You know, the BPT just ended.
Yep. BPT ended. They've already released their schedule for next year.
Yep.
And the only thing that we're really waiting on for them, which will probably come sometime in the next month or two, who's going to make the cut, because they are cutting down to, what is it, 65, right?
That's correct.
Instead of the 50, because of the feedback from the anglers, they moved that back to 65. So like 35 anglers are going to get cut. So it'll be interesting to see who that is. That will come out the next probably month or two. I know if you go down on social media, the Bass Fishing Forum, there's a bunch of posts, people trying to calculate it, like who's on the bubble, who's not. I haven't tried to look at it because I have no idea.
No, I mean, they're only, from my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, they're only going to take 5. Is that 5 from the invitationals?
So last I understood it, 5 will come from the invitational. So I think 60 will be from, or maybe it's like 50 or 55 from the original like BPT anglers, the rookies from this year. So many will make it, and then I'm bringing up 5.
Yeah, because they don't get a drop year like they do on the Elite Series, right? Like you got to requalify every year that you fish it.
I believe so. Yeah.
So it'll be interesting. I mean, that organization is doing things because they need to make some organizational changes, and that is what it is, right? But it'll be interesting. Jacob Wheeler, he locked up AOY. This is his third Angler of the Year for the Bass Pro Tour. The guy he's unstoppable when it comes to consistency.
And the years he wasn't, he was like second or fourth or in the top
so
5.
He's always been in like the top 5. Yeah, that's pretty amazing. But there also were some great anglers that won on that trail this year. Zach Burge locked up his first victory. Drew Gill, being a rookie on that tour, he locked up his first victory here on one of our home waters, right?
Yeah, that was a good tournament.
Yep.
And that was a great one. Like kind of show one's about like 2 to 2.5 hours from us, but it's a local North Carolina body of water. So it was cool to see them go out on it. It didn't show out like we thought it would. And that's because of some of the restrictions they had on the body of water. They couldn't run everywhere that some of the local tournament guys will do because they just couldn't go to the alligator and stuff. But but it was a good tournament.
It was, man. So moving on over to, let's talk real quick before we hit on the Elite Series. The MPFL, our other national tour that is rolling right now. They are 3 events in. They're getting ready to head up to their 4th event in Saginaw Bay. We're going to get some more information on that. We're probably going to have an MPFL angler come on after the fact. They're a little bit easier for us to access considering we have 5 local guys here that fish the MPFL. So it's really cool to get their perspective on it, how spread out their tour is. But they're getting ready to head up to Saginaw Bay, Michigan, and go chase both green and brown fish. So they have 3 events left for the year. That's going to be Saginaw Bay. Then it's going to be St. John's River. And then it's going to be
Lake of the Ozarks.
Lake of the Ozarks. So they're going to some pretty cool places this year. And we'll get more of their perspective. So who's going to hoist that shield up at Saginaw Bay? Maybe we'll drop a little hints a little bit later on our predictions, but not on this episode. So the Bassmaster series itself, both the Opens and the Elites, a lot of shaking, a lot of moving. Ben, before we started the episode, you talked about you mentioning the incident with who was it that ended up getting the boating accident?
Wes Logan, right? Yeah.
Was it Wes? Yeah, Wes Logan. So kind of break that down for us from your perspective, what you saw, and then I'll give you my perspective.
Well, so to be honest, I haven't looked too much into it. I knew there was an accident. I knew he was in the hospital, a bad situation. And I know there's a lot of rumors and stuff going around on social media and the forums about what happened and people just speculating. And I didn't want to go into that. Yeah. And I know he put a video out today. I haven't watched it yet. And I think the thumbnail has this is what really happened from Wes, who got in the accident. I mean, he's got that point of view. It happened to him. So I haven't watched it yet. So I don't know. I don't really know the full details. It's just, with Pete, I mean, we know how dangerous it can be. Being out in the water, going down, hitting a wave wrong, or whatever happened out there. I mean, that's why you got to wear your PFDs and kill switches and all, because it's no joke.
That's right. Here's what I do know. He was in the tournament at Lake Champlain. He was running to his next spot, and he hit something. What was alleged to be a floating dock that had disconnected and had been floating out in the middle of the lake. And so when that happened, his boat jackknifed and he slammed into the gunnel of his boat on the passenger side, cracked his head, went to the ER. I think it ripped his entire engine off his boat, if I'm not mistaken. Luckily, he had that safety device called the leash. Shout out to Leash, if you're listening to this, which prevented that engine from flipping up inside of his boat, which has happened before to numerous anglers. He was taken to the emergency room. He was given, I think they sutured his head up, and then he went back out there and he caught his 5th fish. Right. And so I think he ended up placing 60th, if I'm not mistaken, in the Lake Champlain event. But so he was doing everything right. He was operating his boat within his realm of experience. He was wearing his personal flotation device. He had his kill switch on. There wasn't anything that he was doing wrong. So for all the social media trolls out there that are messaging and saying you're driving your boat too fast, that's like telling a NASCAR driver they're driving their car too fast. They have to make time. They have to be as efficient as they can be on the water. They're safe. Like, I've never seen tournament organizations, and it has happened, but at the national level, they do a very good job at preventing anglers from going out on the water in unsafe conditions, right? There's a liability associated.
Well, with that tournament, they canceled the second day.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
That's absolutely right. You know, and does everybody like it? Do the anglers like it? No, not all the time. Do the conditions change and it becomes slick glass, flat, calm conditions? Sure. Nobody is really 100% when it comes to predicting weather conditions. Like, it doesn't really matter who you are. They just do their best job to make sure that they take the cautions and don't put the anglers in harm's way. Now, do conditions change when they allow them to launch and they get out there? Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Right. They can turn into 5-7 footers. But for all the people that are messaging on his social media that you were driving your boat too fast, man, like, maybe pump the brakes a little bit. Like, the guy is doing his job.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And he's doing it the right way. So, you know, shout out to him for demonstrating a lot of resiliency.
Yeah. And I guess there's no concussion protocol in bass fishing.
I don't know if they're going to do a mace exam for him. They probably did that at the
hospital, yeah.
You know, check his pupils and stuff, make sure his memory. He's probably got some follow-on checkups for sure.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but they're out there right now.
Yeah,
they're out there right now. So, Ben, kind of break down. Have you been able to watch day one? And you guys know, by the time you're hearing this, you're going to know who the winners of the AOY and the tournament is, and you're going to know who qualified for the 2025 Bassmaster Classic too.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, I watched a little bit today and some of the highlights as well, like whatever they do, the midday highlights or lunch or whatever. And you know, like, great event. It is smallmouth Disneyland.
Yes.
Right? We all know this place shows out every year. I mean, they're just smallmouth fishing, right? So there's a lot of jig head minnow stuff out there, a lot of live scoping. But I mean, when you've got in the top 10, they all have over 24 pounds, and everyone's separated by just ounces. I mean, it's a phenomenal fishery. There's a reason why they go back there almost every single year. I know sometimes people complain, like, let's change things up a little bit, and maybe they will next year, but there's a reason why they go to the St. Lawrence almost every year, because it's a phenomenal event out there.
Yeah, it definitely is. And I forgot to say this at the beginning of the show. I'm a little nasally right now, thinking like little sinus things going on with me. But, you know, the St. Lawrence River, even though Taku is in Disneyland, if there's anything we know about smallmouth, it's how much and how fast they move, right? So we saw this with Champlain. You know, Seth Fighter on day one was leading the event, and I think he definitely fell below the top 10 cut line to make it to day 4. So just because Taku Ito is in first place on day one, and doesn't mean that he's going to be the winner of this event. Now, history will show that all the Japanese anglers, for the most part, do a really good job on these smallmouth fisheries. You know, they got their own style of fishing, their own style of baits. They're very dialed in with forward-facing sonar. This body of water suits Taku, suits Kenta Kimura. I know I'm missing one, Koya Fujita, right? It suits their style. But there's some OGs that are up there too, man, that have a really good shot. And two of the most dangerous people, in my opinion, and I think this is my prediction for this event. And by the time you're listening to this, you already know. I think Corey Johnston is going to win this event, right? So he is sitting in 4th right now. Mm-hmm. He's 1 pound and 2 ounces out of the lead, right? But the Johnstons have so much history on the St. Lawrence River and smallmouth fisheries. I think that he's going to pull off something special in this one. So by the time you're listening to this, I'm probably completely wrong, but that's my prediction on this one. Consistency is going to be key. Keying in on those 4+ pound smallmouth is going to be 5-pound smallmouth. Mm-hmm. They almost need, it was the average of 5 pounds right now, right?
I mean, yeah, 10th place is 24th. I mean, yeah, pretty much. Yeah. I mean, like 4 something.
So I think Corey Johnston is going to pull this off. Ben, what is your prediction on this event? This is day 1 and it's already over with now.
It's true. I don't know. It's anyone's game. and we kind of mentioned earlier, everyone's separated by ounces. So Taku's got 26.2, right? Joey Suentes is in 10th. He's got 24.1. But if you go all the way down to 65th place, Rick Klun, he has 19.8.
Wow.
I mean, that's 65th place. And then, I guess Polinick, but like 82nd place, you still have 18 pounds.
Yeah.
So, I mean, phenomenal event. It's still anyone's game. But it'll be interesting as it goes on because it's going to be separated by ounces.
Yeah.
And by day 4 in Championship Sunday, it's going to get really tight, I have a feeling. I don't think anyone's going to blow it away.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Corey's a good pick. I think Taku too. There's something about the Japanese anglers and Taku because he hides his baits here very well. Like he's got little spider baits or something. Like there's some secret stuff he's got.
I promise it's not live shad or live gobies.
Yeah, but and I wouldn't mind seeing Jacob too.
Yeah,
Jacob Fouts. And we'll talk about him here in a second when we talk about Angler of the Year. But he's done a lot this year. Yeah, for sure.
All right, so Ben's going with Jacob Fouts. I'm going with Corey Johnston. Pete, I'm going to give you a pick real quick. You're going to go with let's give Pete Scott Martin. Pete picked Scott Martin for this one.
Yes, he did. He texted us.
Yeah. So, but Scott's sitting in 22nd as of day 1. Maybe he's hoisting that blue trophy. He's already qualified, and we'll talk about this later, but he's already qualified for the next classic. So, I mean, other than gaining very valuable Angler of the Year points for future cuts in the Elite Series, he doesn't have much to lose, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So yeah.
So the big thing with this event, and I was watching Bass Track more all day, checking it every 30 minutes, 45 minutes, because there's a lot of movement right now of who's going to win Angler of the Year. It is up for grabs, probably between 3 anglers.
Yep.
And they're competing back and forth. And actually throughout the day, Bass Track keeps it updated on the far right. And obviously it's not super accurate because Bass Track's not fully accurate. There's only like 40 or 50 anglers that were using Bass Track today.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's something up there in New York, because Champlain was the same way. They had a lot of anglers who weren't on Bass Track. So a little more inaccurate this time, but
that's the ROI. Yeah.
Yeah. So the Angler of the Year right now, it's coming into this event. Justin Hamner was in first.
Yep.
And then Trey McKinney was in second.
Yep.
And who was third? Was it Corey?
Yeah.
I think Corey was third.
Yep.
And right now, after day 1, Jacob Fouts is leading Angler of the Year. He's 2 points ahead of Chris Johnson and 3 points ahead of Justin Hamner. And then Corey Johnston is 19 points behind. So it's still anyone's game, but really it's going to be Jacob, Chris, or Justin. Whoever finishes best in this tournament is going to win.
That's right. Yeah. So we were talking about that a couple episodes ago. Like, nothing is over until it's over.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Like nobody really has it sealed unless they got, one of the biggest, or a giant margin that's unbeatable right now. That is not the case. My prediction for Angler of the Year is Justin Hamner, right?
Or how can you do that if you pick Chris to win?
So, well, that's true.
That won't work.
I guess it's going to be Chris then. Yeah. Chris wins St. Lawrence. Chris wins Angler of the Year.
And I guess because I picked Jacob, I got to go do the same thing.
Jacob wins the tournament, and Jacob wins Angler of the Year for Ben. And Pete, well, you don't have an opinion on this one, but this is a really, really tight race. And I think the cool thing about this AOY standings, and we'll dive into the Rookie of the Year, that one's kind of probably sealed already. The cool thing about this Angler of the Year is you've seen a fire get lit under certain anglers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not just Angler of the Year, but the points in general, right? So Jacob Fouts, something changed with him this year.
Yeah. So I don't remember how many, and we talked about it, if I believe on a few podcasts, but because I think it was last fall. And this came out because of all the cuts that BPT was making and all the issues with sponsorship dollars. Jacob came out and made a video about having trouble getting sponsors. You can go back and watch all that stuff. And why can't you just go out there and like you used to be able to just go fish and catch fish and make a living out of it? And that's right. We've gone through all that before and how the industry changes and all. And he took a lot of flack for that. Like a lot of people respected him. So we understand that. At the same time, a lot of those same people are like, if you want to play this game, you got to play this game.
Yep.
But I tell you what, he went out there and he's fished his butt off this year.
He absolutely has. And if you want to hear more about how small the pie has gotten, go back to the last episode that we have with Seth Ellis, who joins us in studio. And he talks about that because he's going through that very same thing right now. Right. So yeah, Jacob Fouts, man, he turned it up. Another angler who turned it up this year, who started off really poorly and had a great year last year with 2 victories, right now has the big bass for the St. Lawrence. By the time you're listening to this, maybe it got beat, maybe it didn't. Is I think Joey Cifuentes had a 6-pound 10 ounce, if I'm not mistaken, smallmouth. So he's got big bass right now, and he was sitting down in the hundreds or low 90s.
He was having a terrible year. And last year he won 2 events. He was rookie of the year, right? Last year.
Yep.
Did extremely well. And this is what's interesting is this is how much from year to year your fortunes can change.
That's right.
You can go from, almost being at the very top of the standings almost, right? And then falling almost all the way to the bottom.
Absolutely.
Like, we see it year after year after year. I mean, I think like Chris Aldane's really high this year, the Angler Year rankings. Last year was a very bad year for him.
Yep.
And it flip-flops back and forth sometimes. And it's one of those things like when it's your time, it's your time. Like you and Trey experienced that this year you and Pete experienced that this year for your trail. And we all know how bad Pete's year was last year.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I didn't have a great year last year either. Couple good tournament finishes, but at the end of the day, like I don't know what it is. Like, you can say it's adapting to change. You can say it's getting better with technology. You can say it's things changing in your personal life. I think it's kind of a combination of all, we don't talk about it a whole lot on this show, but there are probably a handful of those anglers that have embraced the fact that technology is a tool that they can use in their profession to compete at a better level, right? Some of them may totally be against it and not use it. Some of them may be against it, but decided they're going to use it. And then there's John Cox, right? Who is sitting in 26th, I believe, for Angler of the Year, 26th or 27th right now, something around that. Yeah, 26th. As you're listening to this, he probably moved up. I don't know, but it doesn't matter because he guaranteed made the classic for next year. He is just a freak of nature. I don't care what anybody says, and he also smashes them on the MPFL as well. So he's about the only one that I can say that he's probably indifferent, but he's just like, I'm going to do what I do until I can't do it anymore.
Yeah. He sticks to what he's good at. That's what he does. That's why out here at the St. Lawrence, he is sitting in 78th. I mean, he's got 18 and a half pounds. I mean, he's catching them, but it's his game. That's not his game going out offshore, jig-head minnow, big smallmouth. But he's still sitting in 26 AOY, and like this last event is down there. So
that's right.
He's been very consistent this year. We've got the Angler of the Year list up here, and it will change slightly here, but we were actually running through this before, and you brought this up. Look at it. Who's all at the bottom of the list down here?
Yeah. So Bernie Scholes is sitting in 102nd as we're recording this show. Bernie Scholes is one of those who's been on the Bassmaster Elite Series for a really long time and never has won, but he's always been a very consistent angler. I think this has been more of a challenging year for him. Chad Pipkins out of Michigan, Jamie Hartman, who's one of the cash-in pros here, Buddy Gross, who's been around for a long time, Derek Hudnall, he stepped away from the Elite Series, so that basically drops him out. Frank Talley, he's an OG. David Mullins, he's been around for a long time. John Cruz, our good buddy John Cruz, having a little bit of a struggle bus this year. Ed Lochran, that was great. So I wanted to talk about that too, but Ed Lochran, he won his very first Bassmaster Elite Series trophy on Lake Champlain, right? Mm-hmm. He locked up the last tournament. Now, he qualified for the Elite Series and joined it in 2019. That's right, Ben?
Yes.
And this year has been really cool. All in all, you have 2 rookies that have a win, right? So John Garrett won, Trey McKinney won, then Cliff Prince, right? Is it Cliff Prince? And Ed Lochran. So 2 older gentlemen, and then 2 rookie younger gentlemen. They won this year, right? And then Corey Johnston got his first Elite Series victory. And then there's Patrick Walters. Yes, he won, right?
Yeah.
He won at Lake Murray, right? So it's been a really, really dynamic year this year. But yeah, like you said, Ben, the bottom, man.
If you look at the bottom, it's all the names that we're kind of used to, like below 80th, Gerald Swindle, Scott Martin, Rick Clun, Mike Iaconelli. We already mentioned some of the others. Like, these are the guys who kind of, have had a rough year. And this is where I wanted to transition to the rookie class, the young guys who are doing extremely well. Because when you look at the rookie class, and we'll talk about the leaders up here, there's 10 rookies on tour this year.
Yep.
And 9 of them are qualified for the Bassmaster Classic.
Yes.
Right now. And when you look at the standings, which it's based on the AOY standings, and they do the projected cutoff at 40. Typically, it's usually between 40 and 44 Elite Series qualify for the Bassmaster Elites and the Classic based upon their elite performance because of double qualifiers, etc. But all 9 of the 10 have qualified for the Bassmaster Classic, which I don't know if that many has ever qualified before.
Well, I mean, I don't know. We'd have to go back and pull that. The only person that's not qualified right now is Timothy Dubé. I think that's how you say his last name. And, he was one of the Bass Nation qualifiers. He won the national championship on Lake Hartwell last year, which qualified him through the Bass Nation for the Elite Series. And it's not that he's doing bad. I think he's sitting in the 50s.
He's 58th. I mean,
he's 58th. He's doing really good. But of the 9 rookies that fished all 9 of the EQs last year, all 9 of them are going to fish the 2025 Bassmaster Classic.
Yes, they are.
That is insane. And that is just a testament to BASS saying, hey, we want more consistency out of our rookie class. Because we've talked about this before, what tends to happen, and it even happens to veterans on tour, is these guys will get on the Elite Series and they have not the first idea of how much it takes money-wise, logistics, family. I mean, it's like answer D, like all the above, like how hard it is to fish the Elite Series. And so grooming these rookies through fishing all 9 EQs, there's pros and cons to both of it, right? And we've had these debates before. Does it take the working man out of it? Some anglers say yes, some anglers say no. But at the end of the day, the data is showing right now, and we'll see if this holds true for next year.
Yeah, so that's what's going to be interesting about it, and we'll get in a second. Last thing I want to kind of touch on this, rookie class doing so well. It's not just 9 of the 10. Well, all 9 of the EQ guys qualified for the Classic, right? Milliken's the 9th one in the qualify. He's the lowest ranked of those in points. He's 32nd. The next guy is sitting in 21st. So 7 of the 9 EQs who qualified are going to, right now, they're sitting in the top 20 for the year.
That's amazing. They are riding the momentum train, whether or not people call it they're better at forward fishing sonar, whatever you want to call it. They're crushing the competition right now, right? There's some OGs that are still hanging in there, but I mean, just having one win, this is a perfect example right here. Ed Lochran and Prince both got a victory this year, and they're both sitting down in like the 80s and 90s in points, right? So they won't even qualify for the Classic next year.
No.
But those who get a victory in the BASS Opens, fish all 3 of their division, they can qualify. Yeah. Right. So that's kind of stings, doesn't it?
Well,
right?
No, that's always been a thing.
It's always been a thing, but I would think dang, man, hey, if I won one of the 9 Elite Series events this year, it should qualify me, should give me an automatic berth.
Well, so I think this event does.
Oh, so the last event
does? I think Bass does. I believe this event, because this is the AOY championship event.
Yeah.
Whoever wins this one will automatically qualify. And they usually sometimes have 1 or 2 other events in the year that's an automatic qualifier if you win.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you this. The rookies are kicking butt this year, man. And I got to give a shout out, man, to Milliken too. You know, we talked about him before, but YouTuber coming on the scene, man, businessman. Like he hasn't had a victory this year. He has had actually some pretty bad events in his opinion, but he's hanging in there, and he's showing the world that, hey, I belong here. And you know, hats off to him. He's doing really well. So.
Yep. And then just I guess to wrap up the rookie conversation, Trey McKinney's probably got rookie of the year wrapped up. That's because he's about 14 points ahead of Wesley Gore. And so that's probably not going to change too much. Trey's probably going to wrap that up here in the next couple of days.
I mean, we talked about this before, Ben, like we say that, right? But there are so many variables that can be thrown in the mix. Somebody could get sick. Somebody could have a family emergency. You know, they could violate a rule and get disqualified. They could have mechanical issues. They could get in a boating accident. I mean, there are so many different things. But from our mouths to yours, we're saying that Trey McKinney has rookie of the year locked up. And Ben and I gave you our predictions for AOY and who's going to win the St. Lawrence River. It's been such a dynamic year. I can't believe it's over with the elites, but man, our tournament season ended in June.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So now it's all fun fishing. So what else is going on in the elites, Ben? Anything crazy?
Well, that's rookie is a big one. No, I think that's about it. We talk about the Angler of the Year, the Rookie of the Year. We don't know the schedule yet for next year. That probably won't come out for a while. And I don't know. They might release that after the Opens actually close. I don't know if they're going to do that this year. And speaking of the Open, let's go ahead and, the EQ series that we just talked about.
Yep.
The grind that was for the guys who qualified last year, but it's helped them out this year, or the suggested it really helped them out because they're performing so well. And we've got 9 guys who are trying to qualify for next year.
Well, I think you got like 100 and something guys who are trying to qualify, but there's only going to be 9 of them. And the list is pretty interesting.
So they've got 3 events left.
Right.
So they've got Leech Lake.
Yep.
And what are the other 2?
The Mississippi River.
Mille Lacs.
I don't know if it's Mille Lacs or not. Let me pull that up real quick. But I know you said Leech Lake. They got the Mississippi River at it says Savine. I don't know, 7 Mississippi. Maybe that's pool 7 or something.
Okay, yeah, it's up there.
And then the last one is Lake Hartwell in October.
Oh, that's going to be a fun event.
Yeah. So I mean, they got a big grass fishery, Leech Lake, big smallmouth in there. I think there's a largemouth in there too. The Mississippi River
got both.
And then you got Hartwell. You're going down to spotted bass, and they're largemouth in there, but that's probably gonna be a spotted bass deal in October. And you got some household names that may qualify for the 2025 Elite Series. And then you got some young bucks that may qualify for the Elite Series. So, Ben, who's number 1 right now?
Yeah, so right now we've got Easton Fothergill sitting number 1 here. And what's interesting here, and you all can go on Bassmaster.com and look up the EQ AOY rankings basically. And it's a little bit harder to figure out like points and all because there's so many people competing, anglers in the Bassmaster Opens, and things can jump around a little bit more than probably the Elite Series, just depending on where you're finished at. So, and they've got 3 events. They get a few more events left. So really anything's in play. Easton's sitting in first right now with 1,033 points, but the 2 guys behind them are well experienced, aren't they, Trey?
Yeah, they are both household names, both former BPT anglers, the last series that they came out of, I believe. Dakota Ebear and Cody Meyer, right? So Dakota Ebear, I don't know a lot about Dakota. I'm not sure where he's from. Where's Dakota from, Ben? He is. It went away. No, that's the wrong one. So yeah, 2 household names. Dakota Eber, who crushed it on the BPT. He's from Texas originally. He is sitting in second right now, 1 point behind Easton Fothergill. My prediction is he's going to qualify. He has a significant amount of experience fishing national professional tours. And then Cody Meyer, who appeared to struggle significantly on the BPT, obviously enough to get cut, has came into the BASS world and absolutely crushed it. He fished FLW back in the day, and he stuck with like the Major League Fishing format. And he's somebody that I think is absolutely going to qualify for the next elite season.
I mean, yeah, I would agree. I mean, things can jump around, things can change. Everyone can have a bad tournament, but like if everyone in the top 9, because the top 9 qualify, those are the 2 that I'm definitely putting the highest odds on. They're going to finish it out.
Yep. And then somebody that's on there is Bobby Bakewell. Right now he's sitting at 8th. Bobby Bakewell had an interesting tournament this year. I want to say it was a Toyota Series tournament. So he fishes a lot. He fishes obviously the Opens, and then he fishes some of the Major League Fishing events. I don't know if it's Toyota Series or Invitationals, but they were down in Florida, and he's one of the ones that forgot he had his 5th fish in the live well. He forgot it, right? And I think it was day 2 of the tournament. He was sitting in first place. Now, he didn't have enough to win the tournament, but I do remember we were up at Bugs Island getting ready for we were there. We were at Bugs Island, either staying there for a tournament or we were fishing a tournament at Gaston, but we also stayed at Bugs Island because it's not too far away. And we were listening to the tournament coverage, and yeah, he forgot his 5th fish. And once you walk up and drop him in the thing, like it's over with. So he weighed 4 fish in, but he had 5. So, that's another example of resiliency right there. Like, even though he's fishing a different tour, he's sitting pretty good. He's a very, very consistent angler. Those Florida anglers typically do pretty well in the north, just like those northern anglers do pretty well in the south,
especially the Mississippi River one.
Yeah,
they should do really well.
It sets up very similar to places like the Kissimmee Chain and St. John's River and all that good stuff. So,
you know what I just noticed here, because I brought him up his tournament record for the year, and he's sitting in 8th, right, for the EQ standings, and I'm looking here at his finishes this year was 14th at Okeechobee, but then 74th, 24th, 52nd, 51st, and 31st, and sitting in 8th. So it's not like
you need a top 10 every time.
Yeah. So, which I think is a little bit different than last year. Yeah, everything's going to be different, and every year and how everything flows. But that doesn't sound super unreasonable. Like, quick math there, was that like an average of a top 40, maybe?
And that just depends on the other guys.
Yeah, exactly.
Everything depends on the other guys, right? So if the guys that are finishing 39 and above, they're always finishing 39 and above, then you don't have a shot.
Exactly.
Right. But we all know how dynamic fishing, we all don't know, but we know how dynamic fishing is in general. Bobby Bakewell could absolutely not qualify for the elites next year. The only reason I say Dakota Eber and Cody Meyer is just because of the experience that they have now. That could be proven wrong in the quickness, right? They could go up to Leech Lake and totally bomb it. Like, neither of them are from Minnesota. I don't think the Opens have ever been to Minnesota in Leech Lake before, but at least in my life, I could be wrong on that too. But that is a new fishery. And I think a lot of people are excited about that. And I think that one's going to be, I think Leech Lake for the Opens, I think that's going to be a real small margin of victory up there. I truly do, because of the size of the fish.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I was just scrolling through the list here to see who, and there's any other big names. I think the only other one that maybe has a chance, or 2, they're sitting 21st and 23rd. But with 3 events left, there's a lot of play left, and they only need to get right. They're only separated 9th is 948, less than 100 points.
Yep.
So they're less than 100 points, right, in 3 events. And so it's still possible. Ish Monroe and Jory Nania, right?
Yep.
Ish has been around for a long time.
Yep.
Done a lot of angling, and then Nia's been around too for a while. I feel like he's always been punching out the door here.
Yeah.
The last few years. So
there's a couple other names on there too. So if you guys don't know Austin Cranford, the only reason I know Austin Cranford, he's sitting in 20th place right now. He has his own YouTube series. He actually pushes out some pretty good content. He's a stick. He's out of Oklahoma. Brandon McMillan's been on the scene for a long time too. So is Kyle Austin. He's been around a little bit. So these guys are, and then, Kenta Kimura sitting in 15th, but he doesn't count because he's, the reason he fishing that is because he's here from his homeland, and that's all they do is fish these things. And he has the opportunity to qualify for another classic and stuff. So, couple of the other anglers that Ben's clicking on, Ty Faber, Paul Marks, Emma Wagner, Matt Adams. Like, I don't know a lot about those anglers, but those guys, all of those guys have a shot at qualifying for the next Elite Series event. I think Fothergill, just based on his track record this year, yeah, he's sitting in first, but he has had, he's been 5 times in the money in his BASS career. He's got 7 total tournaments. His worst finish is 83rd at Santee Cooper, but he has an 11th, a 16th, a 25th. He won at Lake Eufaula. Was that Alabama or was that, I don't know. Oklahoma.
This is his first year fishing the Opens.
Yep. So. First year fishing the Opens. The kid's on fire. I don't know if he comes out of the college scene or not. I think he may. I'm not so sure, but he is from Minnesota, right? So maybe he's got some experience on Leech Lake. Who knows? That may help him. That could hurt him. But nothing is impossible. But I think you're going to see Easton Fothergill. I think you're going to see Dakota Ebert, and I think you're going to see Cody Meyer on the next Elite Series. So yeah, man, next year is going to look really crazy. I think you're going to see those household names come back. There's going to be some unfortunate cuts from the Elite Series, but that's just the name of the game. Transitioning over to the MPFL, 3 events left. We'll see who qualifies for their 2025 championship. Think a lot of big names fishing over there too. And then from the BPT side, there's going to be a lot of people going home from the BPT side. So 2025 is going to be really dynamic in the professional bass fishing world.
No, the off season is going to be dynamic.
Oh, it's going to blow up.
The last few years, it's been like the NFL or NBA off season with all the drama that's been going on. And there's going to be more. Anglers getting cut for BPT. Where are they going to go? Some might retire. Some might go to EQ. Some might try to go to the MPFL. There's going to be other anglers going over there. So we'll see how it all shakes out.
Yeah. And, like everybody that watches and listens to our show, we're not just a tournament recap podcast. In fact, we do very little of that, right? We do very little tournament recap stuff. We do mention the Elite Series, the BPT, the MPFL, the Opens. We mention a lot of things here in our North Carolina fisheries. We talk about the slot limit being opened up. That's pretty cool. Last night I fished a Wednesday nighter out of the back of our good buddy Doug's boat.
That's why there was so much weight.
Yeah. Of course, Josh Hooks, shout out to him. He fishes the MPFL. He's a local NC angler here. He won with over 19 pounds. We came in 7th place with close to 11 pounds, but there's no more slot limit. So you can weigh 5 that are 14 inches or above. Actually, if you follow the law, you can have 2 that are under 14, but nevertheless, things, but our show is this is what I like about our show, and not patting ourselves on the back, but like we cover so much. We talk about mental health, suicide awareness with our veteran and first responder community. We talk to vendors and biologists and business folks in the industry, and just the world is ours. And our next coming guests are going to be totally different. It has nothing to do with tournament fishing, right? We got some really cool guests lined up for you guys. So, stay tuned for those. And like Ben talked about at the beginning, like there's been a lot going on with the show. We got new partnerships. And our good buddy Pete just made North Carolina his permanent residency. So right now, Pete, the very first order of business, besides moving his furniture and his washer and dryer in his house, was hooking up or hanging pegboard in his garage so that he can put his.
So he closed on Monday.
Yeah, yep.
He closed on Monday, and we knew this was the plan. And where he bought his house is actually like mileage wise, it's probably like 4 miles from my house, and it took like 12 minutes exactly for me to get there.
Oh yeah.
And but I had to bring up all the old pegboard hooks or racks or whatever they call them, the little pins, because that's what I used to use for my trade show booth before I switched over to the new style. They're the slot ones. So I had all those extra pegs, and so I brought him up to him, and he's like, he had to get started on getting all this bait up. He's like, I got too much tackle. I got to get it up.
Yeah. You never would have thought talking to an angler like we would have too much tackle, but that really is the case. Over the last few weeks, I've been selling a ton of tackle, just stuff that's been sitting around that I'm like, if I'm not going to use it, I need to get rid of it. And as you grow in the sport of bass fishing, or any sport in that, or anything, you find out what you like, what you don't like, right? What you need, what you don't need. And that's happening to me right now. So obviously Ben knows, you walk in here in the garage, and it's a small wall of tackle. It's not big by any means. And I think a lot of us anglers have that little setup, but that was the first thing that Pete said, yeah, I'm getting that set up, because, he's been living out of an RV for the last 6 years. You know what I mean? So we are very happy for him and his great wife, Chelsea. She's been on the show before. And we look forward to bringing you guys a lot more guests and content, stuff like that. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to ask you one thing when you went through his house, because I'm not going to say the street names on the show, but I thought I was going through post housing.
I will tell you that Pete should have no problems with his security environment.
Yep.
He is very much close to you, like you said, and in what appears to be a very good neighborhood at the end of a cul-de-sac. And so I'm really happy for those guys, and we talk about it before, we talk about bass fishing is expensive. Good gracious, the economy is just, it's unbelievable right now. The market value on homes is still extremely high. The interest rates are really high. So I know that they're very grateful for getting in where they got in, and I couldn't be more happy for them. So now they have a place to call home. They just got their internet hooked up yesterday. By the time you're listening to this, it's a week from that. Yeah, they're super happy, man. So, the next show, hopefully, I don't know if Pete's even going to be here for the next show either, because he's going to be, moving between his stuff in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, I don't know if he'll be on the road, if he'll be able to call in, perhaps from PA. So, but if not, it'll just be us hanging out.
Yeah, we're gonna do it. We're gonna do it like we always do it. We're always gonna bring you guys some information, some content and stuff. I have to mention this one more time, man.
Go for it, please do.
The Nighthawk. Well, this one's hematoma right here. There's tons of different ones. There's green pumpkin. There's hematoma. What are the other colors?
I got so the green pumpkin is actually green pumpkin with blue and purple flake. We've got an Alabama craw, which is like an orange brown laminate, and then South African special.
Why is that important? Man, we just had Hurricane Debbie come through. I mentioned at the beginning of the show, this is the time of year that a lot of people, you can catch them any way, right? That June, July time frame when that thermocline sets up, those fish are post spawn. They're pretty much moved out. Not that you can't catch them shallow. When they're in the June time frame here in North Carolina, they are fresh. They are fresh fish that moved off the bed, transitioned off those secondary points and primary points out to those flats, or however they school on, if they school on your lake. And now this is very lake situational, but they're fresh fish. But by the time the end of July and August start rolling around, those fish are beat up, right? Everybody and their brother knows where the fish are at on your local body of water, especially if it's a lake like Sharon Harris or some of the others in the area that hold hundreds and hundreds of fish on schooling points. A great way to go out right now and catch a fish and be a big fish, especially after a hurricane with receding waters, but they're not dumping it, right, is to go flip a OneCast snagless flipping jig, or go ahead and grab yourself a Nighthawk. Here's the trick. Don't in my opinion, don't just put like a 1/4 ounce or a 3/8 ounce on there. Throw a 1/2 ounce, maybe even a 3/4 ounce if you're flipping like buckbrush or something like that. The cool thing about these baits, right? And right now I have the jig in my hand with a little bit smaller profile soft plastic. But if I'm going to Texas rig this Nighthawk, I'm going to put that on a 3, 4, or 5/0 flipping hook with a 1/2 ounce weight, most likely with 20-pound tests. And I'm going to flip that, and I'm going to try to get that reaction strike for those fish that are up there eating on the brim, that are eating on the things that have flowed into the water, whether it was bugs or earthworms or lizards or whatever the case may be. And the cool thing about the profile of this bait is from side to side, it's pretty standard, but when you turn it, it's very, very thin, which is really going to help with your hookup ratio when you go ahead and set the hook on that fish. And the cool thing about the appendages in the back is they're a little bit bigger and they provide a significant amount of action. You don't only have to flip this bait. You could drag this bait on a Carolina rig if you wanted to. You could throw it on a free rig. You could probably throw this weightless around. I haven't done that yet, right? But this is a great bait for you to go out there, keep the electronics turned off, and just go flip the bushes.
And I'll add one thing with that, with flipping, with the Nighthawk there. Talking about using a heavier weight, 3/4 ounce, 1 ounce. The appendages there, those little kickers, those little tails at the end, they're pretty thin. So like, if you're watching or listening, at some point you've probably seen one of my advertisements on Facebook, and you've probably seen it going through the water, or like on a swim jig or something. Those tails really kick. Or if you're using a 3/4 ounce weight, an ounce weight, something that gets it down fast, that bait's going to drop to the bottom fast, but those tails are going to be kicking really fast, vibrating right all the way down to help draws it in. So that's like, so when you're looking for what the bass wants, sometimes they do want that slow fall with like very glide, smooth action. Sometimes they just want to drop straight to the bottom with like a lot of kick in there.
That's right. And if you're still planning on going offshore, which I do, you can take this Nighthawk, put it on the back of a 3/4 ounce snagless football head jig with that thin profile, with that offset EWG hook. That would be if I'm not throwing a deep plug in there on a school, and I'm trying to get the biggest bass in that school to eat, because we all know that they move up to the top, they push shad. Those are your smaller fish a lot of times. Those big ones are waiting on the bottom for whatever comes floating down so that they can eat them, because it's hot. The water's in the high 80s. Sometimes in the country, it's in the 90s, depending on where you're at. Those fish, just like in the winter, don't want to, those big fish don't want to burn all that energy, man. Like, they have to eat multiple times a day. And so if you get something big that looks tasty in front of their face, they would rather eat a giant profile like this Nighthawk rather than, and I'm not going to say a jig head minnow doesn't work, because it clearly does. Like, I've caught tons of them this year doing it.
Little dead rig or something.
But the chances of you getting a big fish to connect with a big 3/4 ounce football head jig, you're probably not going to catch your 2-pounder. You're probably going to catch a quality fish to put in your bag. And if you're fishing for 5 big fish a day in a tournament, it's a great way to fish a tournament. If you're fishing for fun, it's a great way to catch your PB, right?
100%.
So, but yeah, man, head on over to OneCastFishing.com. Use the code TheOneCast. Get some of these Nighthawks. They've been flying off Ben's shelf. Luckily, he's a sponsor of the show and an owner of the show, so he brought me some. So I use my own discount for that one. But we're going to go out, get some content for you guys. We'll be sending it to Ben to post on the website and all the socials. You guys need to go over to OneCast Fishing's Instagram and Facebook page. Check out the videos that he's been pumping out. And then also jump on the OneCast community page. We have a Facebook and Instagram too. We filter a lot of fake accounts out of there, so we don't have a big following from what you see, but everybody that's following is a real account. We appreciate you guys tuning in. Ben, what do you got?
So I think you wrapped it up pretty well.
Yeah, we broke down the Bassmaster Elite Series season. We already picked our winners. By the time you're hearing this, we were probably dead wrong, but we hope we're right. We appreciate you guys joining us. We got more content to bring you, and you guys have been awesome this year. This is our second season. We couldn't be more proud, and we are going to continue with you guys growing a culture of anglers helping anglers one cast at a time.
That's a good one. That's a good one. Oh God, it's a toad, son. It's a toad, dude.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day.